Hey everyone, welcome to the Underswell. I'm Derek Sabori. Thanks for being here. Meet Doshi, a skilled relationship builder and strategic partnerships developer looking to apply his expertise at a mission-aligned organization in the circular economy. Building authentic relationships really comes naturally to Doshi, and his diverse resume spans content creator, aspiring talent agent, plastic pollution researcher, and next-generation biomaterials expert. But Doshi's main focus now is landing a role in strategic partnerships or project management at an innovative materials company somewhere in the circular economy. You see, tackling circularity, plastic pollution, and the innovation and adoption of sustainable materials has really become Doshi's personal mission. His stories of tenacity, perseverance, and relationship building are inspiring and are currently at work leading him to, I'm sure, his next opportunity. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you'll dive in and learn more about Michael Doshi. But, as you'll hear in the episode, you can just call him Doshi. All right. Well, hey, Doshi, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being on the Underswell.
I'm very excited to be here, Derek. Thanks so much for the invitation.
Yeah, this is great because we've had some really fun conversations. We connected on LinkedIn, I believe is where we connected. Is that right? Did we connect somewhere else?
Over the past few months, I've been doing a lot of expanding my network and a lot of outreach. And I was doing some deep research on people in the sustainability field, leaders in partnerships and communications. And I came across your profile, and it was with during your time at Think Parallax.
Yeah,
and that was an organization I wanted to learn more about. So I cold sent you an email, and we connected for our first conversation.
And that's a great point. I mean, I think what a great thing to do, being proactive in that way and taking that initiative, because it worked. I saw it, and a lot of times I'll get those as well. I get a handful of those, throughout the month. I'm like, oh gosh. But I just felt like, yeah, this guy, I like his background. We have similar, you were already in this space, and it just felt like, you know what, let's hit reply and let's see where this goes. So yeah, I'm excited to dive in with you. But I just want to confirm, for your most recent role, you're looking for new opportunities right now. You've got your eye on sort of a head of partnerships opportunity. You're really looking for impactful roles in the circular economy, putting that focus on partnerships, talking about stakeholder engagement, relationship management, project management, public affairs. Does that sound right? Anything to add there?
Yeah, every company comes up with different titles for the roles. So I'm seeing a vast array of different titles. So everything you said is correct. Anything that also includes customer success, account management, and even some science communication roles, I excel in.
Yep. Okay. And first of all, where are you calling from? I know you're in Hawaii right now, right? Is that home?
Yeah, home is North Shore of Oahu in Hawaii, specifically the community of Waialua. So yeah, that's where I live. That's where I'm calling in from.
And if the right opportunity presented itself, are you willing to relocate, or are you North Shore, bound, and that's home? That's where you're staying. Give us an idea of what works best: hybrid, remote, in person, or you're staying put.
Hawaii is home base, and the past 3 organizations I've worked for have actually been 100% remote. And so they've been companies based or organizations based in California. And I have worked for them remote, working Pacific Coast hours, and sometimes even earlier if I'm taking business calls with customers or partners in Europe or in Asia. But I am looking to stay based here in Hawaii. But I'm willing, able, and ready to travel for extended periods of time. My last company, I would go visit them in California at least once a quarter, and I can stay for upwards of a couple weeks at a time to work with the team if necessary.
Okay. And Doshi, if I had to kind of give you an exercise, I mean, we're always trying to, for ourselves, for our own personal brand, or when we're making a pitch out there, trying to put together an elevator pitch, right, of what we're looking for, what we're trying to do. And for you, if you had to fill in the blanks here, what are you trying to help people do? What is it that you're trying to do? If you had to say, I want to help people do what, how, because kind of thing, what's your elevator pitch to them?
I want to help next generation materials companies form lasting partnerships across the value chain by crafting interpersonal relationships. And that interpersonal relationship part is very important because creating an impact at scale at this time involves a certain level of inspiration. And when you begin a collaborative relationship on that interpersonal level, it is showing a level of commitment beyond simply a transactional relationship of doing business with someone. I feel like we're in a time right now in the sustainability movement where there are a lot of policies and regulations that are forcing change to happen. But then there's also a lot of companies that are turning to their consumers and their customers saying, what do they want? And they're listening to them for that inspiration and influence. So when I can approach a business relationship through that same perspective, I think those create those longer lasting relationships that are done with integrity.
And I think you kind of, you opened with that, with this idea of, kind of the role that you're looking for. So I want to, put that in context with your pathway and how you've got to where you're at professionally, personally, if you'd like. Give me a little sense of what the last 3 or 4 years have been like, your last roles. And I think maybe more importantly, what you're looking for going forward. What's the ideal fit for you going forward? But give me a little sense of where you've been these last few years.
Over the past 3 to 4 years, I've been really leaning into the innovation space, particularly, as I mentioned, next-gen materials, and diving deep into everything from understanding the research and development process to the feedstock sourcing for these biomaterials, to the product performance, working with the biopolymer scientists, working with the injection molders and the engineers to actually meet requirements that brands are looking for, to understanding the realities of the end-of-life scenarios of these materials, to, as I mentioned, the regulations and policies that both influence the development of biotech companies and next-gen materials, or create additional roadblocks for introducing consumer products made with novel materials to the market. So this deep dive has taken place while both working at research-driven nonprofits and also most recently at a biotech startup that was producing biopolymers. So I'm actively, my pathway now is I'm actively exploring opportunities with mission-driven organizations where my experience and skill set can contribute to their mission while having the greatest impact in the circular economy. So the circularity space is where I'm really at. So, something I wanted to add, Derek, if you don't mind, to this pathway and what I was just talking about in your previous question is getting next-gen materials ready for prime time play in the market is a really iterative process. So having those lasting partnerships, it's giving companies more skin in the game. It's giving these mission-driven companies more skin in the game, and you're helping them lead the charge by working with you through that iterative process to ultimately deliver a superior product or service to their customers. And that's why I think the partnerships piece is so important. And, to your last question, the pathway to where I am now, having that collective experience that I've had in the past really helps me understand so many different aspects of the challenges of transitioning away from fossil fuel-based plastics to more sustainable materials across the board.
Do most companies, you think, understand the importance of this, this iterative process, but also the relationships that you're talking about, the interpersonal relationships? Will most companies understand how important that role is and identify a need for that position?
From my experience, there are some companies that are definitely trying to stay ahead of the curve. They see the writing on the wall for needing to transition to a new materials economy. Mm-hmm. And so they're ramping up their teams internally. A lot of it is starting with the material engineers and the scientists, because they're the ones that are going to be needing to put these new materials, trying to plug and play them into their production equipment. And so the material needs to be ready for that. But also they are ramping up their policy teams to not necessarily influence policy, but to just have a better understanding of, hey, what are these regulations? How can we support our team internally to help make sure we're abiding by those regulations? And also from the communication standpoint, if we are making this change, how do we get customers to understand the importance of the change that we're making so they can see we really are trying to make strides in the right direction for sustainability? So that's where people like me come in, that we can wear a lot of hats. We can help introduce the material to a new company. If they're having issues with that iterative process of trial and error for the material, we can bring in, I can then act as the liaison between the biomaterials engineers and innovations team and connect them to have deeper discussions on, hey, it's doing great here. It needs this little tweak. And that's a big part of what the partnerships role plays in this iterative process. It's not just sales. It's also ensuring customer success.
Yeah, but I'm imagining there are a few. I've got a couple skills running through my head. Give me a list of a skill set, that is entailed in a role like this.
Yeah, yeah. So it's very much, I like to view myself as having childlike wonderment. When I was a retail sales manager, the owners of the store, they had a running joke with all the sales representatives that would come in. We sold about 40 different brands in the store. And the owners of the store had a running joke to when a new brand representative would come in. They say, hey, here's Doshi. He's the sales manager. He's going to be asking you for the thread count of every piece of denim that you're going to be selling him to put into the store. And
Yeah.
so to me, though, that's a skill set of that wonderment. It's not just remaining curious, but it's wanting to take that deeper dive and understanding how something works and understanding what value you're going to be giving to the person that's going to be purchasing that item or that service.
Yeah.
And that's a skill set that I feel like takes a lot of time, takes a lot of craft. It's almost an art form in being able to relate to somebody on a one-on-one level beyond just the business that needs to be done.
Sure.
And communication. Communication piece I think is a really strong skill that I possess that goes a long way in forming these types of relationships that are leaning towards change.
If you look back, Doshi, at those experiences that you've had at any of those organizations, I mean, you've got a really interesting resume looking back. I know you've sort of, been winding through a couple different industries. We've got some great stories that I know about, but tell me about some of those experiences and maybe tell me about some of the things that you've learned or really appreciate most about any one of those past roles or jobs that you've had, whether it's how you've evolved, connections you've made, or maybe the lessons you've learned.
Yeah, a big one for me is knowing what I don't know. So that's tied in with that wonderment piece, but knowing what I don't know has helped me shine throughout my career. I feel like that combined with that wonderment piece for everything in the world and human ingenuity makes me a valuable asset in any organization I work with. And a reason for that is because I try to find the smartest person in the room and I try to learn from them. And a lot of times the smartest people in the room are people that are already in leadership positions.
Yeah.
So whether that's wisdom being given to me from starting in the mailroom at William Morris Agency, and as I mentioned before, working in retail, I feel like knowing what I don't know allowed me to not only learn from brands that we were selling, but also from customers that came in. Because I became a master at the 30-second relationship. You'd have customers coming in from all different walks of life, all different income backgrounds, and I were either looking for something they had in mind that they thought would benefit their life, or they were relying on me to sell them some of my favorite items that I had just based on how I presented myself to them. So I felt like that was something, being submerged in that really helped hone that relationship building skill. Also, some other things that have been really helpful for me is remaining humble and being my authentic self. It makes it really easy for me to get along with people from various backgrounds and walks of life. And with that, another thing is hard work always pays off. And if I start to feel like it hasn't, then I'm not learning and growing as much as I can from the current situation that I'm in. So if I feel like my hard work isn't paying off, then I haven't examined all the hard work I've put in to learn all the lessons I can from it. And that's something that I've learned to lean into because it really separates me from a lot of people that are going for the same types of positions and roles that I am.
Yeah. I want to go back because you mentioned William Morris Endeavor and your time there. When I looked through your LinkedIn profile, that is something that really caught my eye was your time there as an agent trainee at William Morris Endeavor. And when we spoke about this, you told me some really interesting stories, but tell me a little bit about how that came about. What was that like and how, I think you alluded to it, but how did that experience really shape who you are now?
Yeah, thanks. So I grew up in a small town of Whitewater, Wisconsin, which is in southeastern Wisconsin, surrounded by a lot of farms. So I didn't know anybody working in the music industry. But after a lot of self-reflection going into my sophomore year in college in Wisconsin, I decided I wanted to get into the music business. And music was something that really made me happy. I was always super inspired by musicians, and I wanted to help bring their music to the world. And so not as a musician, just from the business side of things. That's how I wanted to get in the music industry. And I remember sending my resume out to all the major record labels in Los Angeles because I wanted to be close to the ocean. I never heard back from any of them. So that led me to start exploring opportunities with medium-sized labels. Same thing, didn't hear back from any of them. So I turned to Craigslist to start looking for micro-sized record labels. And I think this was the summer of like 2004.
Okay.
And so that's where you would turn to Craigslist for a lot of things.
Yeah.
And one micro-sized label on Hollywood Boulevard in LA said, hey, if you're in LA, come in for an interview. So I packed up my grandma's car and drove out from Wisconsin to Los Angeles and called them up and said, hey, I'm here.
So good.
Yeah.
Initiative.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's how that came to be. I stayed in a hostel for 2 weeks right down the street in Hollywood until I could find an apartment to sublease for the summer. And I worked a retail job to help make ends meet, as the internship only paid me in burritos. But it was exactly what I was looking for. I was looking to get my foot in the door, and that's what it was. I feel like William Morris was a boot camp for the music industry. Started in the mailroom, worked my way up to agent trainee, and that's just a step below becoming a music agent. And that's the ultimate goal of what I was looking to do. And I felt like that's where I got my master's degree in business, was working at William Morris. It was fast-paced, high volume. I was learning from business executives that were the top in their game. And it really allowed me a place to practice my work ethic in a real-world setting and hone my interpersonal sales skills and observe and interact with people doing business. These were leaders who held positions that I aspired to have one day. It was a great experience.
Doshi, what's an influential life experience that your LinkedIn bio or resume can't fully capture? Tell me something that has helped really determine who you are, or that sets you apart, or that has informed your work style.
Yeah, I have traveled to some of the most polluted places on the planet. And so it's not just sitting behind a computer working on sustainability issues. It's actually being in the field, whether it's the furthest away from any continent on the planet, sampling microplastic in the South Pacific Gyre, traveling to Southeast Asia and seeing where plastic ends up once we put it in a waste bin or recycling bin here in the U.S. I have felt the pollution in the environment. I've walked through fields of plastic and heard the plastic food wrappers crunching under my feet that were coming from the U.S. in places like East Java, Indonesia, and the Philippines. And I've talked with and worked with community members who are working with waste pickers that are earning about $1.50 a day, picking through these fields of plastic waste, trying to find plastics of value to sell into the informal waste economy. And those experiences, I feel like it's hard to sometimes articulate just on paper, or hard to articulate in a LinkedIn bio. And smelling it, hearing it, feeling it, it's this very impactful experiences that I can bring to a company, saying, hey, I've actually been in the environments that you're trying to protect through changing your supply chain or through making stronger sustainability initiatives at your company. And I think that's something that carries a lot of weight. That experience has influenced a lot of ways I approach the issues I'm trying to solve. I think it provides me with more authentic experience and a holistic perspective on working with businesses to actually create that change. So from being in the field, doing waste investigations and research, to working from the advocacy perspective, to actually then working with businesses, I have experience across all of those different points of intervention across the plastic supply chain or material supply chain that I think really separates me from a lot of people going for similar positions that I am.
Yeah, so in a way, working on next-gen materials, it's personal for you.
Very, very personal to me. And also, I take it to heart because, like I said earlier, I have friends in these communities now. I've formed friendships and relationships with frontline fence line community members. So I view them as brothers and sisters. So yeah, it's helping to protect these people on a very interpersonal level.
Yeah. Well, with that said, give me a sense then of what does a great work environment for you look like? When you land somewhere, what do you hope for? Is it fast paced? Is it a lot of people there, or is it quiet, focused work? Or are you constantly interacting with people? What's the prime type of work environment that you really thrive in?
Well, I really love collaborating. So a big part of partnerships roles it can be sales. And a lot of that is going out on your own, creating new sales leads, doing a lot of outreach or taking inbound leads. And I love doing that type of work to getting to know people. But I really like working on a team where there's an open line of communication, whether that's Zoom calls, phone calls, working docs, or in-person visits. I really thrive best when I'm working on that creative ideation with my coworkers and colleagues. And I thrive in work environments where I'd say having a clear understanding of my work plan and then going with that. So give me a clear understanding of my work plan. I can run with it autonomously, whether it be solo projects or where I'm working on a team. But I definitely like to have that that open communication where if I'm having issues, I want to be able to reach out to my director or reach out to a colleague so we can troubleshoot something together.
And what do you think? What will most people appreciate working about you then? Is it that ability or that eagerness to kind of work things out with people? I know on your LinkedIn page you've got a lot of really great recommendations where people have come out and said, "Hey, Doshi's great at this or that." One, I guess my first question is, has that been crucial and important for you? Why would others seek those type of recommendations? And then what are people saying about you? What do you think they like about you?
Yeah, thanks for that. I remember even starting off at William Morris. It was a high-intense business setting. I remember doing business with a very large promoter, and I called him up one day, and I said, "Hey, it's Doshi." And they said, "Oh, the nice guy at William Morris." And I was like, all right. So that's always stuck with me. And then I got into the NGO space and started doing some partnerships. And somebody referred to me as the walking shaka, always spreading good energy to whoever he interacts with. And I feel like that good energy, that positive energy I bring, combined with my robust background working for different sized businesses and organizations across different industries, I feel like I've also worn a lot of hats that makes me a very versatile team member, and I can adapt to any situation I'm put in. So nice. I'm also very effective at leading teams or collaborating under guidance, and I have a strong ability to adapt and learn. So that's something I also think that I've been given feedback on, is that people appreciate working with me.
All right, well, we're going to start to wrap things up here, but before we get too close to the finish line here, I'd like to do a vision board exercise, Doshi, where give you an opportunity to tell us exactly, if it could be any company, or you're trying to grab a client or a particular role. What does it look like? What's the picture you paint in your head, and what's on your wall right now?
Yeah, I love building relationships where I can help partner organizations or people achieve their goals. So it's very gratifying for me when I can help someone with great customer service. And I thrive at this the most when I'm representing an organization that is selling a product or service that I believe in. And that's where that integrity piece really comes through for me. So if you look back at my resume, all the organizations I've worked for in the past, I have felt very confident in the product or service that they're providing, or else I wouldn't have worked for them. Yeah. So I always sell with service and integrity. I always partner and create with service and integrity. But when it's something I am passionate about, such as circular economy initiatives and next-gen materials, I feel like my stakeholder engagement really shines to ensure that mutual success.
Doshi, do you have any advice for people that are coming up through this particular path, want to get into next-gen materials, or would want to dabble in any one of the past experiences you have? What advice do you give to people that might be in your shoes?
Yeah, continue to expand your network and build relationships, and look for resources and tools that may help you refine how you communicate about your experience and skills. It's practicing progress, not perfection. I need to remind myself of that over and over, and that same concept applies for that iterative process I was talking about in developing next-gen materials for market readiness, and then also to lead towards more sustainability impact. So that progress, not perfection, goes a really long way. As I mentioned earlier, find the smartest people in the room and form relationships with them. They will introduce you to other people. So those are just a few recommendations.
Well, those are great, and I can vouch for you being a good networker, reaching out. I know this is going to get you somewhere, and hopefully us putting this together helps move things along. We want to really help you land that next opportunity, because you're going to be great wherever you land.
Oh, thank you.
You're going to be a real valuable asset, that's for sure. Here's the last bit, Doshi. It's your call. We give you a soapbox where you can either shout out to somebody who has helped you, mentored you, or has been an influence along the way, or a call out something that you're you're not really too stoked on right now and that you really want to get out there. But either way, soapbox is yours.
Yeah. Well, first off, I'd like to do one of both. But instead of a call out, I'd like to do a call in. So I'd like to call in organizations to have a conversation with me and consider someone with a diverse career background as mine as a candidate to join their all-star team. And
I love that.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I feel like there aren't many people who have had the collective experiences I do, from working at the top talent agency in the world to sampling microplastic the furthest away from any continent on the planet with the man who discovered the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, to conducting waste investigations in Southeast Asia for an Emmy Award-winning film, to helping introduce federal legislation at the U.S. Capitol, to leading the charge at introducing next-gen materials at a biotech startup company. So I feel like that all is packaged up as me, Michael Doshi. So that's the call in. Please reach out to me. And
nice.
I think the shout out, I would like to give a shout out to anybody who's had a networking meeting with me or an informational interview with me during this transition phase I'm in. They have gone so far, yourself included, Derek. The resources I've been introduced to, the companies I may not have known about, or other connections that just networking with somebody, introducing me to a friend of theirs or a colleague of theirs. A big shout out to all the people that are helping me out.
Oh, I think that's great. Thanks, Doshi. Where's the best place for people to keep in touch with you or follow along? Is it LinkedIn? Anywhere else you want us to send them to?
Yeah, best place is LinkedIn. My email address is on LinkedIn under the contact section on my profile, but it's also just michael.doshi@gmail.com. My first name's Michael, but I do go by my last name, Doshi. So it's okay to refer to me by that.
Well, Doshi, thanks so much. Best of luck on the search. Really hope you get something here soon. And man, give a shaka to all the North Shore locals out there.
Yeah, Derek, it only takes one company to say yes, and I'm hoping
that's right.
I'm hoping this podcast will help me find that one company.
I'm hoping so too. Thanks again, Doshi. Good luck.
Thank you so much.
Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the show. If you like what you heard, be sure to check back weekly, subscribe to the show, and if you want to be featured on the show, come hit us up at theunderswell.com. We'd love to hear from you.